am a wild child, yes I am. I love the country and I wanna run free, and I don't wanna live up to anyone's plans. I wanna feel the good vibes and I wanna feel the sunshine with you by my side. I am.
Hey guys, Mike Colón here. I am in New York City shooting runway for Grace Ormond Wedding Style magazine, and I've had a few people ask me about my gear and what I shoot with, so I wanted to run through that real quick for you. I'll start with what I typically shoot with, and then I've actually had the opportunity to try out some new gear, some Sony gear, and I tried it out on this market, so I want to share that with you and kind of share my experience with the Sony gear. So let's start with my typical gear shooting runway. The D4 is my camera body, and this is my go-to lens for most of the runway shoots. It's just the 70-200 2.8 VR, the new one, and it's been around for a while, but it's the latest version. And this monopod, I mean, that's pretty much the setup. This is a Gitzo G157.8L. It's a long version, so the L I think is key. I'm tall, first of all, and I like to stand in the back. Sometimes if you run into a show late and there's no spot in the pit, I can just like climb up on a stool behind the pit, and a tall monopod is essential. One, I'm tall anyway, so just to get it up to the right level, I need a long monopod. But two, if I'm standing on a stool or a box or something and I want the monopod going down to the ground, which is a lot better than having it sitting on the edge of your stool where it could slip off, this thing will go like a good foot over my head. So I'm 6'4". This could probably be like a 7 foot or higher, 7'4" monopod. I'm not sure the exact length, but it's also pretty compact. It's got 4 different legs on it, so it's compact, lightweight. It's the carbon fiber one, and it fits in my bag. It's you know, the nice thing about Gitzo monopods is it's streamlined. It slides in the bag easily, and it doesn't get caught with levers. So I like this monopod a lot. I don't leave home without it. Oh, the top to it is important too. This is the Manfrotto 3229, and this is just a simple pivot, and you need this for when you're shooting because you're panning a lot as the models walk up and down the runway. You're doing a lot of panning, so that monopod's key. And yeah, that's the setup. If I'm shooting behind the scenes, I'm usually with my 85-1.4, a beautiful lens, kind of a go-to lens for portraits. So that's my setup. I have these other lenses for, you know, the odd scenario where I need a wide lens if the runway's short, or if I'm shooting in a private appointment with a designer, and Grace needs some shots, behind the scenes shots of that kind of thing. So I bring a lot of lenses with me. I have a backup D3, and the other thing that's key is the Lowell GL1, and Brian Marcus introduced this to me. It's a single LED, really powerful, tungsten balanced, and has a zoom head, which is amazing. So the nice thing about this is it's very balanced, so you can hold it for long periods of time. I can have my assistant holding it, shining it on the models. A lot of times I'll go into a smaller runway or a private appointment, and the lighting's just horrible. It's overhead lighting. There's you know, they didn't pay for any lighting setups, and Grace wants some shots that can actually be printable in the magazine. So this is a great light just to, you know, put on them, you know, off camera, and it balances with the other lights in the room. It's tungsten, so this has been a lifesaver, man. So many of our shoots we use this, and it's been a lifesaver here. So moving right along, of course I use Lexar cards, and these are the 128 gig 1066 speed, and these have always been amazing, just screaming fast. We shoot fast, and I shoot, you know, sometimes I'm shooting raw files, sometimes raw plus JPEG, depending on how fast I have to turn around the images. So to have a fast card is essential, and I always use Lexar cards for that. I've been using them since the beginning of my career, and they've never failed me. So this is the SDXC, which fits in the Sony cameras, and Lexar was kind enough to overnight one to me because Sony sent me the cameras. I wanted to test it out on the runway, and the reason I want to test out the Sony gear on the runway is because the runway is very challenging. It's kind of low lit, and you have a fast moving model wearing all white, and it's a bride. So this is a perfect test for, you know, I don't have to test it at an actual wedding of a bride walking down the aisle. This is a perfect test for that scenario. And the cameras always have struggled a little bit tracking focus on a bride walking down the aisle wearing all white. You have to really find a point of contrast, and it's just a struggle low lit. Sometimes the light's flat. It's all coming from the front of the runway. So I figured it'd be a perfect test to try out the new A7S, and I got to do that this market, which was awesome. I started out shooting more stills with it, and what I noticed was, you know, the beautiful thing about this camera to me, and the unique thing about it, is the mirrorless technology. So as I'm looking through the viewfinder or the back of the screen, I'm not actually obviously looking through the lens. It's a view through the lens hitting the sensor, and the viewfinder on the inside is a little screen that I'm looking at. So versus a traditional actually seeing through the lens, you're seeing in color, and you might be shooting in black and white, or you're seeing you know, true to eye, and then you might be changing the white balance, and you're not seeing it until after the image is shot. In this camera, you're seeing it as it's going to look after the image is shot. You're seeing it in real time. So it's kind of like a, you know, photographers like to chimp. They shoot, and then they're like a monkey. They're like, whoo, whoo. They chimp, and they look down at the back of their camera. And I call this camera like the pre-chimp. You know, you can actually chimp while you're looking through. You're seeing what you're going to get before you actually press the shutter release, which to me is actually really interesting. You know, I'm so used to seeing in color and seeing how it looks with my naked eye looking through and shooting, and then taking a few test shots and looking at the back of the camera to see how I did, how my white balance looks, how the exposure looks, if I blew out any highlights. With this one, I'm looking through, and I'm just kind of like a live view on the D4, but it's right up to my eye, so I can see very clearly. You know, there's no reflections or anything, and I can adjust my Kelvin temperature. I can adjust my white balance and exposure right there on the fly. And then as you shoot, it's pretty fast, and you can have it set to where I think the default on the camera is after you shoot, it gives you a little preview. So it's like this split-second preview of what you just got right in there in the viewfinder, which is kind of cool. It's almost like click, and then bam, you see it in print almost. It's interesting. And you can turn that off if you want to, if you just want to shoot away. The other thing I noticed about it was just the sharpness of the lenses, and Sony is using Zeiss glass. So a lot of these lenses are made by Zeiss actually, and the glass, I mean, Zeiss is known for sharpness. These are prime lenses. This lens blew me away. I mean, I couldn't put it down. This is the 135 f1.8. So I mean, kind of a heavy piece of glass, but you know, no heavier than like my Nikon lenses, but just all glass. The camera body is super light, you know, so together they feel pretty lightweight still. But this lens was, I mean, just tack sharp. I was posting a bunch of images on Instagram, so if you check my Instagram page, you can see the latest images from some of the shoots. I was shooting at Gallia Le Havre, and I posted some of those images. But just tack sharp, super shallow depth of field. It's interesting to have this little tiny kind of rangefinder style camera, and feels almost like a point and shoot camera, and having this fat daddy lens on it. Oh, I might mention that you need the step up mount for it. So this is an E mount, which is a slightly smaller than their like the full flagship like A99 has the A mount. So you got to step up the ring with this little guy. So this kind of pops on, and then you can mount any of the lenses. This is an E mount already, the 70-200. This is like a 55 1.8. Yeah, it's a 55 1.8. These are both E mount already. This is the 85 and the 135 are both A mount, and so you need the step up mount for it, which doesn't take away any light. It doesn't. I think it doesn't take away any speed in autofocus. It just kind of enables you to use the larger mount lenses. So I was having a blast with this thing. I was just really loving what I was getting. I was shooting actually in black and white. I was shooting RAW plus JPEG. so I can get black and white, shoot that up to Instagram or send it off to the magazine so they can use it in their social media. And then I was shooting a raw file because I wanted to really look at the raw files later and check to see how the color looked and all of that. The other cool thing about this camera, which, I mean, there's so many cool things about this camera that I wish my Nikon gear had, and I wish they would build into. One of the things is built-in Wi-Fi, and I'm sure Nikon's coming out with this. They have to. I mean, they have to end up putting Wi-Fi in the camera. But this has even apps you can load into, which I haven't had a chance to load any apps yet. But this camera has the Wi-Fi built in, and you can send straight to your smartphone. So there's an app you can install on your smartphone. I have the iPhone here, and basically I'm just launching the app and hitting send to smartphone in the menu here, and it's super easy. And all of a sudden I can just browse through. I can flip through just the swipe feature, flip through images that I just shot on the A7S, and I could select them, do some whatever I want to them, filters, corrections, and shoot them up to Instagram, shoot them up to social media instantly. So that was cool. I was jumping in the Grey Sermon party bus, the big limo van that we have, and takes us around all the shows. And Lawrence and I were, and Brandon and a bunch of the crew were just like shooting images up to Instagram instantly with this. So I think honestly, like that's a huge feature, especially nowadays, to be able to share stuff. I mean, we were talking about it, and it's like we're sitting there at the end of the pit with all our big cameras and everything, and all these high-res files, and then you have the social media bloggers and the editors lined up on the sides of the runways, and they're like filming and taking photos with their iPhones and iPads, and they're shooting them up to social media like instantly. So by the time we get back, download all these things, it's really interesting. It's like the images are kind of old news. So I'm thinking man, as professionals, we need to be the ones putting really good images up really fast, and now it's just a speed thing. So you got to have all the fastest gear, and we should. I mean, we should have gear that's compatible with this day and age of social media. So the other cool thing about this camera is the silent mode. I mean, you can turn off the shutter. There's no mirror in this camera. So I mean, you're literally just like an iPhone. When you take a photo with an iPhone, you're just like click, and you don't hear anything unless you have the sound turned on. You're just shooting, so it's completely silent. Which if you're a set photographer shooting for television or movies or things like that, I mean, this is amazing. You don't have to have those big boxes. I mean, you can sit there and change lenses and do whatever you want, and it's completely silent. So at a wedding ceremony, I mean, that annoying click during this quiet part of the ceremony, you're kind of nervous to shoot. Maybe they're praying, or you want to get a cool shot of the pastor praying over the couple, and it's like so. This camera is completely silent, so I thought that was cool too. So there's the mirrorless technology, the Wi-Fi, the Zeiss lenses, and I haven't tried the apps yet. I'm excited to try that, but just the silence of the camera. So I was really impressed with this stuff. One thing I haven't talked about yet on the Sony stuff was the autofocus. I was trying a few of the different modes, and the one that I was trying was the face detection, to see if it would lock onto the bride's face as she would walk down. And I was struggling a little bit. I haven't had enough time to really put the autofocus to the test. It would do okay. I would get little bursts, and I was shooting on the high speed shutter release, so it was continuous shooting. I was getting I think 5 or 10 frames a second, and I had the autofocus kind of locking onto the face, but every once in a while it would go blurry and it would jump back to the face. So I'm not sure if I was in the right mode. I tried a couple of the different modes, and the camera was struggling a little bit keeping up with the autofocus. So I'm interested to try out the 6000, because Sony has the 6000, and they sent it to me to try, and I haven't actually had a chance to play with it yet. But I hear from a number of professionals and from the Sony rep that camera is just blowing away every other camera in the autofocus tracking arena. So and they say that's gonna that focus system is going to be built into this camera and some of their flagship SLRs as well. So I'm excited to try out that. I think autofocus is like one of those things that's so key when you're shooting. For the stills and for those shots where even when the model would stop on the runway and turn and all that stuff, I was nailing all of those, and they were tack sharp. When it was sharp, it was like tack sharp. I could zoom in. Like I was showing Brandon, my assistant Brandon, the other day. I'd zoom in on the girl's back. I'd shoot the detail of the back of the dress, and I'd zoom in, and I could see like the hairs on her back, like just like every little hair, every pore on the face. So these lenses are just super sharp, you know, and I have a lot to say about Nikon too. Like I love my Nikon lenses; they're tack sharp as well. But these are just razor sharp, and I was impressed. So yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, just go ahead and shoot me an email, mike@mikecolón.com, or comment on this video. And thanks for listening.
You care,